Greetings, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. DJ here with Hands on SAP Dev with Q Macro. That's me. And yeah, we're live on a Wednesday afternoon locally to me here. I'm looking out the window. It was hard, well, I mean, fairly normal for Manchester. Pretty rainy and windy this morning on my run. I got absolutely drenched, but I quite enjoy that, to be honest. And but now it's sort of, the sun has come out. It's still very windy, a little bit cold, but I think I might have a sit outside with a beer later on. Yeah, it's a long uphill day today. I don't know why. My brain is a bit foggy. I mean, as you probably know, I'm not an afternoon person. I'm a morning person, and I'm feeling quite tired. So you'll have to forgive me and also help me, of course. Yeah, I'm really glad you've joined. Who have we got here? Hello, Napit. Hello from India. Hello to India. And good afternoon to Germany. Hello, Helmut. Hello, Christian. Good afternoon. Hey, from Oz. I mean, what? What time is it over in Oz? I can't even work out. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. The time is a lot. 15:01. It's middle of the night. Amazing. Thank you for joining. Or are you from Oz as in where the wizard comes from? Maybe that's on a different time zone. I don't know. Good afternoon, Gregor, Lupomania, Flavio. Good afternoon. That's brilliant. I'm so glad. I've got a coffee here. It's my third coffee of the day. Yeah, there we go. So let's get started. There's a couple of things I wanted to cover today. And before we do, let me just switch to the other scene. Now I've got that on F3, caps lock 3 on my keyboard here. Yes, it seems to have switched. So let me move away from here. And I just wanted to point out, as of probably about less than an hour ago, we are now live with community.sap.com, which I think is very nice. I mean, quite a while ago, we went from something like www.sap.com/developers, which I couldn't quite get my brain around. And we moved to developers.sap.com, which of course, in my opinion, is the right URL. Rather than some sort of path info describing developers. And the same has now happened to the community, which is awesome. So there we go. And by the way, I've got as you probably know, I'm back home in Manchester. I'm off to Riga via Denmark tomorrow to do another code jam with Max. I was in Istanbul last Friday and Saturday, also with Max, where the food was amazing, and I've really got the bug about Turkish food, as in the passion, not the bug, the passion for Turkish food. So when the name is Cloud Application Programming Model, foggy is a normal state. Now, Pete, you're right. And of course, clouds contain a lot of rain very often. So yeah, precipitation. So yeah, thank you for that. Nice, a nice bit of punnery on the chat there. Gregor points to, and I will actually go there as well. As of very recently, what we have known inside of SAP as the internal documentation has now been made available publicly. So this we internally referred to this as, well, capire, which is a bad, on my behalf, pronunciation of the Italian capire, to understand, of course, which is quite a nice pun, again, on the word cap, or on the acronym, or TLA cap, because it's documentation about cap. And so we still have the documentation on the SAP Help portal, but this is, I suppose, the more prominent documentation, the documentation I like to refer to when I'm trying to figure things out. It's an awesome, yes, it's absolutely an awesome link, Sumit. I love the .sap top level domain. How they make that work, I have no idea. Well, maybe I could, if I thought about it, maybe I could figure it out, but I don't know. But cap.cloud.sap or cap.cloud.sap/docs. Awesome. This is actually running, or if I remember rightly, it's just behind this is just Jekyll. So it's maintained in a Git repo, and it's generated, static site generator, absolutely awesome. So there we go. Yeah. So have at it, and yeah, there's the SAP Community Home. We've got the topic of the month, which I'm very excited about because I'm hoping to see a lot of coverage about this subject alongside CAP, because it sort of goes hand in hand. Or the topic of the month is the SAP Cloud SDK, formerly known as SAP S4 HANA SDK. So there's a nice post there from Henning Heitkutter. Anyway, randomly, I'm sort of reading the chat here as well, which is really good. One of the nice problems to have is there's a lot of chat. So keep chatting to me, keep telling me things, keep asking me things, keep talking to yourselves as well. I should really, I've got the keyboard there. I should make that a little one bigger so I can see it a bit easier. Oh, that's better. A top level domain costs quite a bit. Yes, I can imagine. Maybe we should have a hands-on SAP dev. I've not forgotten about the merchandise, by the way. I've been looking into that. So watch this space. Anyway, so there's the SAP community. And talking of SAP community, one of the things I wanted to have a little play with you relates to something that Gregor helped out with on the Q&A relating to CAP, of course. So where was it? Down. Oh, there we go. Yes, this is it. CAP-M with SAP CDS Commons. How to use code lists. So if we have a look at that, this is a question, very good question from Wolfgang Fletcher. Is Wolfgang on? I'm not sure. But anyway, I thought it would be worth looking into code lists, digging in a little bit to what Gregor provided, which was really good. Gregor had, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Gregor had cloned a repo from one of the core CAP developers, Christian Georgi, and that repo is this bookshop. Let me make that a little bit bigger. In fact, I'll swap them around for now. That repo is at Gregor Wolf Bookshop Demo. And this was a question about, or as it turns out, about looking at code lists in a free-form Fiori app, with XML views, of course. But what I understood the question to be originally, and what Gregor was talking about, and what's really interesting, I think, for something for us to have a look at, is how this whole thing works with value help, F4 help. Okay, so we'll spend half an hour, or spend down till past finishing off our look at actions and functions in OData V4. Thanks, Gregor, for providing the link there. That's awesome. And then we'll turn our attention to this. Now, what I've been doing earlier today, what's going on in there? What I've been doing earlier today is I took Gregor's repo and I've reduced it down to the, well, not the bare minimum, but just got rid of a lot of the other stuff that was distracting my understanding of how this whole thing works. So I want to show you that. I could even stick it up on a repo somewhere. It's just this, it's just basically a version of Gregor's, and I think we should explore it to see how it works, and to maybe not reverse engineer things, but to figure out what's going on with the value help. And the value help that we're talking about here relates to, and this is part of the question, relates to the original question from Wolfgang, which is one of the aspects that's been defined in the reuse library SAP CDS Commons. So there we go. But first, let's spend a bit of time looking at where we left off last time in the OData V4 exploration of what I like to call sort of the orthogonal aspects of OData, as in the aspects that are sort of less restful and I suppose more service oriented, right? Functions and actions. So anyway, let me figure out where we are. Do we need this? No, we don't need that. We don't need that. So actually, yeah, let's start here. I'm running tmux. Ooh, goodness me. What was that? That was a Doc Travis 1 just subscribed. Thank you very much, Doc Travis 1, for subscribing. That's awesome. Really appreciate that. Marvelous, marvelous with Twitch Prime. I see. I didn't have to switch back to my OBS. I can see it in the chat. Brilliant. So thank you, Doc Travis, and welcome. If you're on the stream, say hi. So I've got tmux here, and I've got a couple of sessions already. So let's just have a quick look. This is I've decided that at my home session where I do most of my work, I've put a little emoji. I've been resisting emojis for a long time, but down here in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see the thumbs up emoji there. So if I list my sessions, that's my default one, and here's the session I've got ready for us to explore actions and functions. So all I've done is I've created a new folder or directory, Ep.36, episode 36, and if we have a look at it, we've got here, I don't need .bookshop anymore. Anyway, we've got here this, in fact, what I'll do is I'll move to bookshop and start there. There we go. We've got here the database schema, which we all know and love, just the books and authors, keep it really simple. And we've got here, this is where we left off, I think. In our service definition, you're not interrupting at all. That was a wonderful interruption. Well, that was a wonderful event. So thank you, Doc. No need to apologise at all. So here is our catalog service definition, and where we left off is that we had two different function definitions. And remember, a function is a little bit like, a function is basically a read-only call, and the function can be either bound to an entity or unbound. Okay, so we've got this example here where we have a bound entity, and it's bound because it lives inside this truncated name thing. It lives inside an actions clause, which is on the end of, I should really put the space there to make it a little bit more sense. It's part of the author's entity definition, because note at the end there's no semicolon. Okay, that's just a little reminder, and we created this really stupid little function which allowed us to play around with passing in parameters and receiving data back. This just truncates name. We'll play with that very briefly. And then we also have this unbound function, as in a function that is not connected to, not bound to, not called in the context of any given entity. Okay, so that's what we've got, and the implementation of that, in fact, I'll start up a little nodemon thing, npx nodemon. We'll have that here. CDS JavaScript, in fact, we don't want to deploy, we'll just do that. Okay, yeah, CDS JavaScript, CSV, we don't really want to show, I think that should do it, shouldn't it? Yeah, that should do it. Right, okay, good. And we've also need a little browser here. Let's stick that there, perfect. And localhost 4000, that's fine. And we've got now this catalog. In fact, why don't we have a look at the metadata? Let's look at the metadata. We can see here, and this is just a recap, we've got our entity container where we've got a function import. Okay, this is an unbound function, is the closest in V4, the closest we get to a function import in OData V2, or what's it called again? A service something. I can never remember the name of the thing. Service something. Service operation. And down here we have the definition, effectively, the signature of this unbound function. Takes two parameters, a and b, both integers, and returns a string, which is exactly the result of this thing here. Okay. Now, the other one is a bound function, truncated name. It's bound to the author's entity. And we can see here that, in fact, why don't I do a search on it? Truncated name. There it is. So it's not listed in the entity container. It's just listed in the main part of the metadata. But what we can see here is that the first parameter, it's almost like, it's implicit, as in we've not defined it explicitly here. We've only defined the L parameter, which is an integer length, for example. That's that one there. But because this function is bound, we have the in parameter, as in the input, and it's an author's entity type. And what we found out as well, and bearing in mind again that the functions, whether they're bound or unbound, they're read-only, they have no side effects, they must have no side effects. Did I mention there's an RFC, did I mention this before? RFC 2119, is it? SG, yes, it is. Keywords to indicate. Okay, so basically, when you look at the definition of certain or specific sort of official specifications, the words must, must not, should not, may, and so on have very specific meaning. Okay, so a function must have no side effects and must return data. Okay, so that's why we've got here, over here, where are we here? Returns. We've got the return statement as well. Okay. So why don't we try this? Let's go across to here and say, let's try the calc unbound catalog, calc unbound A equals 1, B equals 41. Hello, unbound world. Okay, so that is coming from, let's bring in the service.js. That's coming from here. Okay, so that's our definition. And this should be hopefully familiar to us. That's all fine. We also had this truncated name where we stopped on a debugger and we got the request in. So the request is going to include a length value, which we get, or in fact we modified it right at the end, didn't we? What we want really is return data, and remembering that data is always an array. Data and the first value, because there's only one author, name dot substring 0 from 0 for rec.data.l. Will that work? So let's go across here. And what we also remember, hopefully, from last time is that authors, what we need to do is when we call truncated name L equals 5, for example, when we call that, it doesn't find it because what we need is the fully qualified name. Okay, so Dougal. So that's where we left it. And really, the actions are very similar to functions in that you can be bound or unbound. And the difference is that actions may have a side effect, as in actions are read-write, and actions may return data, but they might not. Okay, so why don't we define an action? Let's just go here. In fact, let's move this down a bit. There we go, a bit more. Now, I'm going to make this a bit smaller and this a little bit larger here. So let me know if that's still okay from a view perspective. So let's define, what do we want to define here? We want to define, let's do an unbound action first. So action, what we need to do is end that, unbound action. And an action can take parameters. but it doesn't have to, and it doesn't have to return anything. Okay, so why don't we try that? That's the simplest thing that could possibly work. And now we'll go down to here and say serve.on unbound action, and actually we'll just return. And why do we do like that? I'm just making this up as we go along here. Okay, so let's try that, shall we? Let's go across to here. Now the unbound action, of course, is not going to be bound to anything. So let's say unbound action. Ooh, hold on, what's going on over here? Let's have a look. Okay. That's a bit of a fail, isn't it? Sorry about that. Where are we? Serve on unbound action. There we go. And what's going on here? Oh, there. Thank you. Okay, good. Right, okay, so because I suppose, yes, because actions may have side effects, it's too dangerous. This is my theory. I've not read this, but this is my theory. It's too dangerous to expect to be able to call an action with the HTTP method get, because get implies no side effects. Get implies safe. I think safe is the right word. It's an overloaded term, safe, in the context of HTTP. But basically, if you're going to have a side effect on the server, do not use get. You've got to use post, and that is where this comes from. So what we'll do is we will use post. So let me move across to here. Let's make this full screen, and what I'll do is no, we're not there. I'll have a new window and a new pane in Tmux, and we'll use curl. Okay, so we're running there. So why don't we say curl minus v. Let's have verbose, and we'll say here x post, as in use the method post 4004 catalog. What was it? Catalog unbound action. Bad request. The first argument must be of type string. Now, that's because I think, yes, if we have a look here, in fact, look at the headers in the request, which are signified by the sort of arrow going in the right to the right. The headers in the request don't contain, do they? Don't contain a content type, because what is expected is application JSON. So why don't we supply a content type in that call and see if this error goes away? Now, what we can also do is pipe the output into JQ to format that actual result, the body, which is in standard out, through this little JQ thing, which will give us, let's have a little silent thing as well, so it won't give us the update. Ooh, what's going on here? Silent JQ, oops, JQ. There we go. Okay, so we get this error. Dan Thuss, welcome. Can you explain to me what SAP is? SAP is enterprise software that runs pretty much most of the world's organizations, enterprise organizations, logistics, human resources, and so on. I'm sure there are other people in the chat right now that can expand on that while I continue to ramble on here. But yes, it's enterprise software, and it's a lot of fun. It's a huge universe of wonderful software that we can build stuff with, all sorts of different areas to look into. And so what we're looking at here is this application programming model. for building new applications and extensions to existing software as a service stuff on the SAP Cloud Platform. So hopefully that is a bit of an explanation. I'm just going to take my jacket off. It's quite warm. So anyway, there is our first attempt at calling an action. So why don't we supply a header in that and see what happens. Okay, the server does not support the functionality required to fulfill the request. Now, that is because, what was it? I've had this before. I had this earlier today as well. Not implemented. That server on unbound action. Now, is this what was the URL? Catalog unbound action. 1 second. Catalog unbound action. Oh, hold on. Unbound action. What am I missing here? Am I missing some data? I don't want to supply any data, but let's just data, and I'll have that. Oops. What am I missing? Unbound action. Server on unbound action. Why is that not giving me what I want? What I'll do, actually, I played around with this earlier, so let me just have a quick look. In the service, bound action, did I do an unbound action? Unbound action. Okay, well, let's just play with that with a simpler thing here and say a integer returns string. Okay, let's do that. And then there we go. So now we're getting somewhere. We can maybe reduce this back down again. Yeah, okay, let's do that. So now we'll supply a 42, for example. What is okay. Yes, of course. Now I want to there we go. Try that. There we go. Okay, fine. So there is a way to call an action. Is there a way to call an action without any data? I can't remember. But this is what I played around with. There we go. So that's fine. So there's an unbound action. We have to use post, and we can return data. But also, let's say here, if we end this by saying that, yeah, we get no content, even though the function, in fact, let's just modify that function slightly to do something at least. Return anything. Okay, that'll do there. Okay, so we see the unbound action being called, and we can see that we get no content. So this is an example of an action that does not return any data. So the definition is clear that it doesn't return any data. Now I wonder, can we have just that? No, we can't. There was a way. Unbound action returns string. Okay, let's go down here and Yeah, okay, let's try that. So let's go across here. There we go. And let me just get rid of this data that we're sending. Yeah, okay. So I'm not sure. Maybe it was the definition of the function that didn't really do anything, just returned. Yes. Now that's yes. Okay, I think I know what that was now. Because I was returning without doing anything, the handler that sort of caught that and continued, or the context in which that was called, when the response was caught for continuation, it said, well, there's nothing here. Okay, hence the 501. Okay. So we've got that. There's an unbound action. We could, for example, have a look at making a side effect. But I think we should probably try that next time, because I really do want to have a look at this thing from Gregor's answer. But actually, shall we spend a bit more time on this? It feels a bit random today. What did I do here? Bound action, and the bound action. Oh yes, in fact, what I was looking at was making a side effect. So why don't we try that? Yes, okay, let's try that so we can see what the side effect is. Yeah, and I got this from looking at, what was I looking at? I think I might have been looking at something else from Gregor's repo that had probably been put there originally by Christian. So why don't we do that? Let's go in here and open up this thing here. I'll have something new. Bookshop. Where are we? Bookshop serve service.js. Because what we want. Let's just copy this bit here. Yeah, we'll have that. And we've got this unbound action. We'll keep that there. And we'll say, there we go, yeah. Let's say name string. So we're expecting a name. Going to be returning let's return an integer. I think it returns an integer. Okay, let's save that. And let's have a look at this now. So this is what we've just copied in unbound action, and it takes request. We're logging out the data that we receive. Okay. Yeah, we're logging out the data that we receive. And then we use the CDS transaction function, give it the whole request, which contains information in it that allows it to assemble a transaction that can be rolled back. And then in that transaction object that we create, we can run some SQL. Now this is this special CDSQL. This is sort of a JavaScript fluent API. And we're saying here, update books. So this is an unbound action, so we can do anything we want. So let's update the book. Might as well just use this for now, given the time. I always find an hour is never long enough to really get started with anything. But let me know in the comments whether you would be able to stay, not right now, but you would consider staying around for more than an hour in any given live stream. Maybe I could do an hour. Maybe I could do 2 hours, and for those who could only stay for 1 hour could obviously disappear after that. But I think 2 hours would allow me to get going more slowly without rushing, and sort of get into a bit more detail, because otherwise, it sort of would then allow me to not have to have some stuff prepared in the background just in case I run out of time or my thinking stops. Anyway, stop rambling. Dan, is this nerdtree in your term? No, actually, it's nerdtree sort of is a thing along the side, isn't it? With like a directory structure. What I'm using is Fuzzy Finder, and there's a support for Vim for Fuzzy Finder as well. In fact, if I just have a quick look here, not in there. No, I don't want to do that. Where are we? we want to go here, vim fzf. Yeah, I think I could do 90 minutes. It doesn't sound as crazy as 2 hours, does it? Yeah, I think I might try that. I might try that on, well, not this Friday, but the next Friday one. I might try that, and then people can join and stay or whatever. So yeah, Fuzzy Finder is an awesome piece of work from the same person, and Fuzzy Finder and Vim allow you to use Fuzzy Finder to find files, which is what I've got here. So yeah, awesome. Definitely look into that. Okay, let's go back here and see what we're doing here. So yeah, we've got this unbound action. In fact, yeah, I've said we're returning it returns an integer. I wonder what happens if we run this, because this is a string right now. So let's just save that. Does that look okay? Yeah, let's try that. Oh no, we don't want that, do we? We want this. And let's go across to here and try that now. Yes, okay, error while deserializing payload, unexpected end of JSON input, but I think that's because we're returning, returning here try that. Ah, no, of course, we're expecting something, aren't we? We're expecting a name. There we go, -d, name, hands-on SAP dev. There we go, 42. Okay, anyway, so in fact, has that also updated the title of book with ID 201? Let's find out. If we go back here and look at the books, yes, it has. Apple. So there we go. Anyway, so that just slightly loose and a bit rattly, I think, in my brain. But anyway, there is an unbound action. We could do a bound action as well, but basically it works the same as a bound function in that you get the rec.query that you can use just like over here, right? If you have a look at this thing here, there it is. We can access the request query that we can then run to give us the data that is represented by the context of the binding context. Okay. So anyway, yeah. So there we go. Anything else to talk? Anything? Have I missed anything out about actions and functions? Not. I don't think so. We can't call an action with get. We've got to use post. We have to pass. We have to pass a payload with content type application JSON. And in fact, there we go. Yeah, we can see from the console log just here that actually we can see the data that we get. Console log rec data. So rec.data, if you remember from our truncate function, where is it actually? Where's our truncate function? There we go. So yeah, rec.data.l. Now L was passed in the query parameters, in the question mark L, or brackets rather, in the brackets L equals 5. So that's passed in the URL. Whereas here, the hands-on SAP dev name was passed as a payload in the post. But what the engine does will, of course, sort of marshal both of those types of incoming data into the rec.data object. So that's quite nice. Okay, so that's enough of that, I think. It's already 15:39. I can't believe how fast this time is going. What I want to do now is have a brief look at that thing I've just had a quick look at before, which was this answer from Gregor. Oh, not that one, sorry, that one. Come on. That one there. So what I did, and I've got it over here, is created a different session, val help session. That was this session here. There's the action session that we've just been looking at, and there's my val help session. I've created a reduced version of Gregor's repo, the bookshop demo, because I want to run it and have a look at how it works. And there's very little extra. There's no fat in this. So anything that exists in here right now should be exactly related to what we're about to investigate. Because I always find, let me know, I always find that I can understand things better if I get rid of everything that's not to do with what I'm trying to get my brain around. So this is exactly the exercise I've been through to try and understand, not to try and understand, but to sort of strip away everything, almost to have maybe a canonical example of how value help can work. Mahesh, good evening. Hello, DJ and everyone. I was missing this episode. Just came to say hi. We'll check it out later. Well, nice to pop in, Mahesh. Thanks very much. It's really nice. It's quite late where you are, isn't it? Peter, is it quite late? Yes. But thank you ever so much for popping in. So what we've got here is a regular application. We've got the schema. I've called it schema, and it's got books and authors. But what it's also got is this sort of localized title. And we got also in here the service definition, exactly the same again as we've always had. But actually what I forgot to point out is, God, you can tell this is the afternoon. My brain is just not working at all. I really struggle with these live streams in the afternoon. So we've got in the schema definition, we've got this using currency statement. Okay, so this is that reuse thing, right? So let's have a look at that in a second. What I want to do is start it up. In fact, npm run, what we got here? We got the install and run deploy, and we got the npm start. Let me know in the comments as well. There's all sorts of different ways you can use the npm script, right? npm run this, npm run that, npm run setup and deploy, and of course these names are by convention only, right? Maybe we should try and think of a standard set of script definitions. What I'm talking about is this here. Oh, let me just quit out of here actually. A standard set of script definitions, so that, because I find myself every time I clone a repo, I think, I better check in the package.json, or I better run npm run to see what's possible. But if I knew that for a given CDS project, this is quite a nice one. So, there's a npm run setup, which does an install and then a run, which then calls the deploy one, and then the npm run start. Those seem quite standard. Actually, there's a debug one that is similar to what we played around with last week, isn't it? So, if we could do that and decide conventionally what we want to do, I think that'd be quite useful. Anyway. So what we were having a look at, let me just start it up. npm run. I think I've installed things already. Set it. Have I? Let's see if I have. Oh, clearly I have, because I've got SQLite installed and the dev dependencies there. There we go. Yes. So npm run start. And am I still? Yes. Okay. What I'll do is I'll run that. Port equals 4005. We'll run it on port 4005 because we've got the other thing over here still running. Okay. So let's run that on port 4005. So let's go across to here. We don't need that anymore. Let's go to 4005 over here and see what we've got. What we've got is this Fiori.html. And this Fiori.html, that's quite big, has got a single tile test. And this tile leads to a Fiori elements-based list report where we have currencies. as value help. Okay, so this is basically what Gregor was answering. Srikanth, content for a good blog will be really useful, DJ. So Srikanth, are you talking about the idea of let's all settle on some standard npm script names and things like that for new and for sharing new and existing CDS repositories? Let me know. I think that's what you mean, but let me know. Oh, okay, cool. Right. Yes, I think that's almost like a Monday morning thoughts type post, isn't it? Sort of rambling thoughts. Okay, so that is basically what Gregor was showing Wolfgang, right, Gregor? So what I want to do is look into what bits, what building blocks do we have to make that work, okay? So first of all, let's go back across here. Let's make this a little bit smaller, actually. I think you can probably still see it. I'm just looking up on the screen there. Maybe one more, actually. Yeah, probably see it. So let's have a look at here. Let's zoom into that one for now. We've got, well, actually, let's explore it with Explorer, with Ranger. First of all, we've got our database and we've got our schema CDS, but the important thing to know is that in line 8, we've got a currency field. Now that currency field is defined as type currency with a capital C. Thanks Gregor for confirming that. Currency with a capital C. Where is that coming from? Well, let's have a look. It's coming from, go to definition, there. So that was, I was using the language server protocol and my ALE, my use of the asynchronous linting engine to use the CDS plugin that you use for VS Code to go straight to the definition. But I'll just go back to where I was, because I want to do that sort of manually. So the currency is defined here, right, using currency from SAP CDS Common. Okay, so it's a type defined in SAP CDS Common. So why don't we have a look at oh yeah, no, actually the one problem with Ranger is once you start editing in a certain location in the tree, you can't go backwards. So yeah, I will quit Ranger actually. Yeah, I love-hate relationship with Ranger at the moment. So let me just have a look at that again. And schema, let's just load the schema. And then now let's go and load SAP CDS Common CDS. And let's load that sort of below there. Okay, good. So we've got currency, which is defined as a type here. And that type is an association, and it's a 2-1 association to the, as in there's only one currency value in that field, in the field currency with a lowercase c, to sap.common.currencies. So what the heck is sap.common.currencies? Well, it's this entity definition here inside of this block. What word are we going to use for this? Inside this block, inside this definition, inside this context, I suppose we should just call it context, right? This block, which is a little bit like a namespace, but you can have more than one context definition in a given file. So basically, this thing here becomes sap.common.currencies, right? And the currencies entity itself, it has been decorated, let's call it, with an aspect, because you can see here, this is almost like this is the same as what we've got up here, right? We could say, for example, here, colon, some aspect, right? And that's an aspect, like we've had CUID and managed before, right? So let's go back down here. So this aspect is a code list, and the code list aspect is defined here as well. So it's an sap.common.code list. As well as the fields, or the property, let's use the word property, as well as the properties in the code list, which are name and description, which are also localized, we also have specifically for currencies and countries and language, but code list is basically just an aspect that describes a pair of properties, name and description. We also have code, which is the key for this particular entity, and that's it. Code and symbol. There we go, code and symbol. Yeah, that's not formatted in a way that's easy to read. I think I would probably format it like that. Okay, so we can see it. Right. So we've got, in the currencies entity, we've got 4 fields altogether. We've got name, description, code, which is the key property, and symbol. So why don't we have a look what the result of compiling this is from a SQL perspective. First of all, we may actually need to continue this in the next episode. My goodness me, 9 minutes left. It's ridiculous. I don't want to rush, but by the way, let me know if it would be useful for me to push this to maybe a branch of Gregor's repo. I could create a branch called value help Gregor. Would that be okay with you? Because then people could see that and they could have a play around with this until next time. I think it would be quite useful because it is really, really, really cut down, and it's designed specifically just to show how this currency value help works. So anyway, let's just quit out of here and yeah, let's go down here and say CDS compile DB to SQL. That's an amazing set of stuff that's compiled for virtually, thank you Gregor, for virtually, well, effectively 2 actual entities that we've defined in our user space. So why don't we just have a quick look here? Create, we've got loads of create statements. Why don't we do this? Look at all those, right? So we got the My Bookshop authors and the My Bookshop books, and because we've got this localized string, which is the book's title, we've got a My Bookshop books texts automatically generated. And because we're referencing the entity set currencies, so the entity currencies, we've got a pair of tables, SAP common currencies and SAP common currencies texts. We've also got views relating to the service definition, but we'll look at those later. So now what do we want to have a look at now? We want to have a look at where we go, let's go see. We want to look at the service definition. So let's have a look here. My Bookshop books as DB from schema, and we got the main service there. Yeah, that's all we need. No, what we want to look at is the other CDS file here, which is the index file, which controls what gets deployed, right? So this is still defining a namespace my.bookshop, and we've got here bringing in the schema definition, but also bringing in the service definition as well, okay? So that's why we saw, if we go back down to here again, I said, let's do that at the top there, I said CDS compile DB --to SQL. Now, that didn't take just the schema.cds, it took the index.cds. In fact, if I understand correctly, it only took the index.cds. But because inside the index.cds there's a reference to the schema.cds, it then of course read the schema. Okay. So anyway, there we go. So in fact, if we actually CDS deploy, well in fact CDS run, port equals 4005 CDS run, we can see the schema and the service and the index. Now that's an index in app. So why don't we go up here and have a look at the app. We've got our Fury, HTML, which is basically a single application tile definition for the sandbox launchpad. And then we've got the index.cds, which contains some of the annotations. Okay, the annotations are basically what facets are in the individual object pages. For example, here, the general facet and the details facet. Okay, let's go back here. And we've also got some annotations that describe what should appear in the object list. Anyway, rather than start diving into the annotations right now, I'm going to finish this here, because otherwise we'll start looking at annotations and we're not going to get anywhere near which annotations are the ones that drive the value help for the currency field. So let's leave it there. That didn't feel to me like anywhere near as useful, interesting live stream. Let me know what you thought. But yeah, an hour. I'm really struggling with that hour today. So sorry about that. Anyway, let's leave that there, and we'll pick up where we left off here by really digging into the annotations to understand what it is that's driving. Well, in fact, one last thing we'll do. What it is that's driving the value help. If we look at the metadata, there's a ton of metadata, and in fact, if we look for currency, that's a bit better highlighted like that, we get 41 matches. Okay, so there's all this thing to look, all this stuff to dig into here. So we'll dig into that next time. Yeah, it was a good recap of the last one. Thank you. I suppose you could take that, but two ways. You could say, well, you just talked about the same as last time, or it was a good recap. So I'll take it. I'll take the positive aspect of that. Thank you, Gregor. Yeah, until next time then. Basically, this Friday, there's no live stream because I will be running a code jam in Riga on CAP with my esteemed colleague Max. So yeah, and we start at 10 or 9:30 a.m. local time, which means that there's no way I'm going to be able to do a live stream before that because it'd be too early for the normal time. So I shall hopefully see you next week on a live stream. Thanks so much for joining, and yeah, Gregor, I will push this as it is, as a branch to your repo. I'll send you a pull request. Thanks, Helmut, and have a lovely evening as well. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Srikanth and Napit and everybody for joining late over in India, and I'll see you next time.